There's been a lot of talk and speculation in the media these past couple of years about how the global recession has impacted the ability for people to retire. How do we carefully plan and also look forward to retirement? Matthew Penny spoke recently to Phil Miller, a recently retired United Church minister, and also to Tom Hiscock, a United Church minister who is about to retire, and asked them if retirement for ministers might be different than retirement from other professions. Let's hear their take on that question.
Well, one of the things that really strikes home immediately is you can't go back to the church that you're retired from. And so...
Where do you worship?
Exactly. That becomes the key question. So we have been Presbyterian, we were at the Bible Church the other day, we've been to the United Churches that are not our former congregation, and just having a lot of fun, basically. Some really neat ideas for church and some really poor ideas that we've learned. It's kind of like being on a sabbatical in a sense.
But it never ends.
Well, except that after the year is up, our thoughts are we'd go back to St. Andrews because we've got our friends there. I mean, it's not only retirement for me, but all of a sudden my wife is now not part of the UCW group and the gardening group and all of the different involvements in the choir and the network that were part of her life. It's both of us are ships at sea.
Yeah. You've really raised a really interesting question there because I think that I'm going to be really picky about the minister. Now, when I was raised as a kid...
What do you mean picky about the minister? That you go to see, or...?
Yeah, that in the church that I want to worship at.
Oh, exactly.
When I was raised as a kid in the United Methodist Church, we were told that the minister doesn't make any difference at all. In the United Methodist Church, they have the bishop who places people there, and ministers come and ministers go. Every 5 or 6 years they change ministers. But we as a congregation weren't supposed to get excited about the minister because ministers come and ministers go. But the minister does make a difference, and I have certain theological views that I want to have in the minister that I worship with, and so I'm aware that the minister does make a difference.
Well, Tom, you haven't retired yet, so you got time. I'm glad to see you're thinking about that before the day comes, and it sounds like you're going to continue to worship. I don't know of any United Church ministers, too many, that give up worshiping altogether when they retire. But have you thought about whether or not you would stay with that United denomination, or would you explore other ones as well?
Oh, I'm pretty strongly United Church. I can't imagine going outside the United Church. I might go to visit, but because it is good to sample everything. I often tell my congregation, well, sometimes you folks are kind of sick of listening to me. Well, think of my problem. Every time I go to church, the same fool's up there leading worship.
No. So one of the neat things, though, that the folks in St. Andrews have been saying is, why don't you go here? Tell us what worship is like at this particular place or that particular place.
Research.
And literally inviting us to go on their behalf and both have the worship experience, but also discover so that we can kind of report back, as it were. I have a unique situation. Janet was there for 5 years.
Who's Janet now?
Janet Norman.
Right.
Was there for 5 years before I joined the team. We worked together for the better part of 25 years, and she is succeeding me.
Really? Oh.
So we figure, we've got the world's record for the longest team relationship. I don't know of anybody in the United Church that's got a quarter of a century together, much less it may be a world record for all we know.
It probably is.
And that, I think, says a lot about both our working styles, the people of St. Andrews, and a whole lot of good stuff there. And I grieve that. That's probably the hardest part of retirement right now, is grieving, working with Janet, doing the planning. So many things that we did together. It was kind of like being parents in one sense of a congregation. And we did things together. It was really exciting doing the planning. And our people gave us a lot of latitude, a lot of permission. And we learned. We learned not to do some things again. And folks were very kind with that. And we found some traditions that really were expected.
The thing I want to ask is, you both clergy, and preaching is usually part of your blood. Are you going to preach? Are you going to take little jobs?
Oh yeah, I'll take little jobs. I need a little income between now and 65, and so I do need a little bit of. I need to stay active a little bit, but I've got so many hobbies that I want to pursue. That I'm a woodworker. My son and I just bought a boat.
Oh boy! Oh, you know what?
You know what a boat is.
Yeah.
It's a hole in the water that you pour money into.
That's right. I think the freedom is what I look forward to in my retirement, which is a few years away. But then you have the ability to go preach for a while, or say no and go out in the boat. You have the ability to go back to this church or worship at other churches, and it's an adventure. It's a whole new thing. So it's not stopping ministry for you, is it?
No,
Yeah. Oh,
no. And you talk about that freedom. Actually, that freedom comes about the time that you announce that you're going to retire. I've enjoyed preaching this last year because I preached on some tough things that I think as a younger minister I wouldn't have touched, but purposefully kind of gone into them because. What are they going to do with me? I mean,
Okay.
Yeah, you're fireproof.
I'm fireproof. Yeah,
Fireproof.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, did you have the same effect? You're retired now, but before you retired, in the months after you announced retirement,
I can exactly understand what Tom is saying, because I felt that way. You could address issues. You were literally fireproof. That you could speak the gospel in love and not be afraid. And I think in ministry there are moments when you want to say things, but you're fearful.
Yes.
You're fearful for what the consequences of being faithful might be. The paycheck, in some ways, becomes more important than the proclamation.
Wow.
And that's critical. That's the human element of it. And I wish at times that I had some of the faith of the prophets. You act and you live in faith. And I know I've done it all my life. I don't know any different. But there's just that extra layer that I know is there, and I wish I could have embraced.
I agree with you about everything. You and I know the advantages of long-term ministry because there were some things that I got to in year 15 with that congregation that I couldn't have done in year 5. And because we got to know each other. But of course, the only way you get to year 15 to find out what those new things are that you could do is that you have to be careful along the way.
How many times did you reinvent yourself, Tom?
Well,
that's one of the things. You're not the same minister for anything other than blocks of time over that time period.
That's right, and we did that quite consciously. One of the ways we did that is we had interns in to the congregation. We had about 6 or 7 interns, and what I used to say is that they stirred the congregation nicely. You do have to keep stirring the congregation, and so let's not leave them with the impression that things were all the same for the 25 years or the 19 years, because in my case they weren't.
No.
Yeah.
Because you become different people, and
you grow.
ministry,
you grow,
and you grow, and they grow, and it's like a river that's flowing. It's not the same river, although the appearance in some ways looks like the same river, and so it changes. You change, and all of the dynamics change. Even things like the building creates some differences when you remove a set of pews or you add something, or there's variances from what it was 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago.
You guys have had a lot of fun. Appreciate it. And we're out of time. I want to thank you very much for spending your time and wish you fun in the rest of your preaching and fun in the rest of your ministry. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'd love to get your feedback on the show, or if you have any upcoming events in your faith community, please contact Doug Croden by emailing doug@anchorvideo.com or calling 519-685-8982. If you'd like to view any of our past programs, check out the video archives at lifeandfaith.ca. Now at this time, we're happy to introduce you to the newest member of the Life and Faith team.